To begin, it's not a Maamar from Tafshel Lamed like most of the Maamorim in the Dvar Malchus this year. It's actually a Maamar from Shabbos Parshas Shoftim Tafshin Chav Tes. Shoftim Tidin Chabachol שעריך, judges and officers you should place in all your gates for Goyim, etc. Simon, he concludes, and you will remove and eradicate the bad and the evil from amongst you. And then further on it says, or in a different pasuk it says actually, that you will remove and eradicate the bad from amongst the Yidden. The idea behind this is that Rebbe explains in the Amr Chachamim said, based on a pasuk in Koheles, that there's a pasuk in Koheles that says, quote, Ir Ketana, there's a small city, V'anoshim ba'ma'at, and there are few people in it, Melech Gadol v'Savav, and a great king came upon it, and besieged it, surrounded it. He built big siege machines and fortresses against it. And then and he found in it over there a poor, wise person, and he saved the entire city in his wisdom. No one remembered that sad or that small person. But anyway, the main part that the Rebbe is going to talk about is the first part of the pasuk. Other places it talks about the Ish Miskin, what that's going on, it's going to Yetzer Tov, etc. But here he's mainly going to talk about the gates. Since we're talking about the gates of the city, and there are the judges and there's officers around the gates, so he's going to explain what's going on with a city over here that needs gates, and so on and so forth. So the Chazal say, Ir Ketana. When it says in the pasuk there was a small city, what's the small city that Shlomo Melech is referring to in Koheles? Zeh Haguf. That's going on the bottom, on the body. V'anoshim b'ma'at. When it says there are a few people in the city, Eloi Varav. This is going on the limbs and organs of the person. U'ba'ila Melech Gadol, and a great king came to attack it. Who is this great king? Yetzer Hara. It's going on the evil inclination. And he surrounded it and besieged it, and he built siege machines, etc., etc. Connected with this attack that comes from outside the city, you need to protect your gates. It says, you need to put judges and officers in all your gates. You need to place officers, you need to place judges and officers in all your gates. That's in the body of the person, the miniature city. But the ultimate purpose of the service is to effect that you shall eradicate the bad and evil from within you. The koyal Yetzer Hara, it's referring to the Yetzer Hara, that is the Ra. What's the Ra Bikir Becha? The simple pshat in the pasuk means the Bikir Becha is talking about Klal Yisrael, that when there are those that are going against Hashem, you need to eradicate the bad from within you, from within Klal Yisrael. But then there is literally Mikir Becha, from within you, the person. What is the bad that's within the person? That's the Yetzer Hara. And he brings a proof from Maamar Chazal, the Koyal Yetzer Hara, that's referring to Yetzer Hara K'Maamar, Rabbi Seinu Zal Chazal say, B'Gemara Sukkah, Shiva Shemes Yetzla Yetzer Hara, that the Yetzer Hara has 7 names. And there's different places and different things that call them by different names. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yikra Oira, that the Eibishter called the Yetzer Hara bad, like it says, the pasuk that brings, Ki Yetzer Lev Adam Ra Min Urav. So we see Hashem calls the Yetzer Hara Ra. So the same thing in this pasuk where it says, Ubiyarta Hara Mikir Becha, is talking about eradicating the Yetzer Hara. While Zanamar Ubiyarta Hara Mikir Becha, concerning it says, you shall eradicate the bad from within you. 5 days, through the person as an individual, as one person, eradicating the bad from within him, Nasagam Ubiyarta Ram Yisrael becomes also eradicating the bad from Yidden. Shemigarish Asaram Miklos Yisrael. That he, through this, he gets rid of the Ra Mikir Becha, he also chases away the bad from Klal Yisrael in general, and from the entire world. Similar to what the Rambam says about the effect of the individual on the entire world, a person has to see himself as in balance, on the evenly balanced scale. So too the entire world is evenly balanced. That the half is merits and half is the opposite of merits. Also mitzvah achas, therefore, if he does one mitzvah, it tilts the scale towards the good. So then he tilts himself and the entire world to the side of merit. So this is similar to what we're saying over here, that when a person eradicates the Yetzer Hara that's within him, he is also going to, by extension, also do so for the entire Klal Yisrael and for the entire world. How come? How is it possible for a Yid through his avodah to impact the entire world? Seemingly, I'm only one person. I'm only doing it about my personal Yetzer Hara. So he says in line 20, since the creation of the world is for the sake of the Yid. Bereshis, like we say at the beginning of the Chumash, Bereshis. Why does it say Bereshis? Beis Reshis. For two things that are called Reshis, the world was created. One of those two things is Bishvil Yisrael Shenikar Reshis. Yisrael is called the Reshis, the beginning. And that's what the world was created for. So therefore, since the entire world was created for the Yidden, so therefore, Yisrael, through the bad being eradicated from the Yidden, top of page Vav, through that automatically the bad is eradicated from the entire world. All of this occurs and happens through the judges and the officers. What's the idea of the judges? Maamar Rabbi say Nozalek, the Chazal say, La'olam yargiz adam yetzer tov al yetzer hara, that a person should always make the yetzer tov angry against the yetzer hara. They bring a pasuk that says rigzu v'al techto. By getting angry, you will not sin. So who is the one that like shouts at the yetzer hara, puts him down, puts him in his place? That's the judge. The judge is the one that determines you're in the wrong, you're bad. He's like shouting down the Yetzer Hara. The Indian HaShoitrim, what's the idea of the Shoitrim? So we know, like Rashi says in Chumash, the Shoiter is the one that enforces the law, that has to actually take a stick to the person if necessary to make sure that whatever the Shofet said should be enforced. So what is that idea? So it says, after the person trying to make the Yetzer Tov angry at the Yetzer Hara, if that doesn't work, it says, Yizker lo yom hamisa, he should remind them the day of his passing. Similar to the officers that give the punishment. In other words, he reminds himself of what's going to happen after 120, that if he doesn't get in shape, there'll be a punishment, just like the shoiter, just like the officer, enforces the law through using a stick, etc., etc. So the Rebbe says that, but there's a certain order in it. First shoftim, then shoitrim. Though mentioning the punishment, which is the idea of the officers, surely helps. As opposed to making the Yetzer Tov angry on the Yetzer Hara, which is the idea of the judges, doesn't always help. How do we know it doesn't always help? The order of the Maamar Chazal is, person should always make his Yetzer Tov angry as Yetzer Hara. If he was successful, if he was victorious, if he managed by mentioning the Yetzer Tov by having the Yetzer Tov get angry at the Yetzer Hara, if it worked, fine. If not, so you have to resort to plan B. What's plan B? You tell them, Yaskalo Yamamisa. So you see that Shoftim is the first option, Shoitrim is the second option. So you might think that, if that's the way it works, why not just jump to what's sure. And that's the sure thing. The Gemara doesn't tell you another option, say, well, if that doesn't work, do plan C. No. Obviously, plan B is always going to work. But you don't resort to plan B immediately. You start with shoftim first. You first start with loyal miyargizot mitzvah yitzahara. And if that doesn't work, you go to the second thing. So maybe you should go always to the second thing. So the Rebbe says, still in all, line 11, mikol makim. Still in all, say the Avodah, who should betchilat tzarich liyisa inyan, the yargiz yitzatov yitzahara shoftim. First has to be the idea that you make the yitzatov angry on the yitzahara, which is first the level of shoftim, the judges. Raki means a moil. Only if that doesn't help, then you resort to plan B. Case of emergency, break glass. Then has to be the avodah. They should remind them the level of the officers. You have to remind them of the punishment that awaits him if he doesn't get in shape. Okay, line 16, Ois base. To explain the idea of the judges and officers that you shall place in all your gates, even more in depth. In Iksiv, it says in the pasuk, "Noida b'sha'arim baila." We say this in the Eishes Chayil, which is from Mishlei. It says that her husband is known in the gates. Now we know that Eishes Chayil is not talking about your husband and wife. It's talking about, it's a mashal. It's from the Sefer Mishlei. Mishlei is from the word Mishalim. It's a mashal for Hashem and the Yidden, that the husband of the Yidden is known in the Sha'arim. This is playing off Shoftim b'Shotim Titin L'cha B'chol She'arecha on all your gates. So what does it mean? First of all, Baila, who could shebrichu. The husband is, our husband over here is talking about Hashem. The less machshava tfis beklal, that no thought can grasp him whatsoever. Still in all, we're saying, even though the Eibishter is not possible to be grasped, still in all, it's noida basharim baila, mekal makim, noida basharim baila. That's still possible that in the gates her husband becomes known, shenasa noida, that becomes known, bebchinas asaga ayidei sharim, that it becomes known through the gates. As we'll learn tomorrow, there's two explanations. What does it mean that through the gates Hashem is known, even though we just now said, less machshava tvisa beklal, no thought can grasp him whatsoever.